Hello, beautiful people, and the beautiful Courtney Jones who just eloped. She got married in Santa Barbara.
I did.
Oh, do you want me to start that over again? Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm
But when
happy
she
to.
moves to Austin, we're going to have a big old reception. We're going to have a blast. Anyway, hi, Eric. Were you there at the elopement? Is that
He
even a
says,
word?
"Of course, Mom. Of
Oh,
course."
good. Were you the flower girl?
Yes. I was like, he was behind. He popped out. It was funny. He was behind a tree, and then at one point he pops out, and he was like, "Boom!" And he's kind of tried to scare me,
Oh,
but he was
but
there. Yes.
what does your husband think about him?
My husband is
Or does he even know about him?
he knows about him. So he like we're very different. It's hard to explain, but he's very much like logical and he very much respects what I do, but he doesn't fully always get it.
Right,
So,
right. That's
but
okay.
that's fine.
He
Yeah,
will. He
he
will.
will. Let's give him some time.
Yes. All right. Guess what? Hi, Eric. I love you.
He says I love you too, Mom.
We're going to talk about the founding fathers of the United States. So let me tell you about this first. They were a group of late 18th century American revolutionary leaders who united the 13 colonies, oversaw the War of Independence from Great Britain, established the United States of America, and crafted a framework of government for the new nation. And
This should be
there's
interesting.
seven, yeah. These seven men are the seven main ones: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, John Jay. I'm sorry, John, I don't know who you are, and James Madison. So we've got questions from the community. Are you ready?
Okay, so I'm just gonna take a moment and call them in. So this is kind of
Okay.
spur of the moment. We talked about this.
Yeah,
But
we thought
we
we were going to do
have
data healing, but I didn't have questions. I thought we did.
Oh,
So
it's okay. But we have Alexander Hamilton here as what he feels like he's is sort of like the spokesperson, if that's okay.
okay, sure.
And just going to ask them all to join. Seems like they're all here. But Alexander Hamilton is going to, I'll channel him today. So,
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to this interview for one, but mostly thank you for the historic, not so very easy freedoms and future you gave to the United States.
uh, he says, thank you. This was the work of many people, not solely seven men.
Okay.
He's saying, but actually, this does not feel to me like what he's telling me. This actually isn't random. You know how it felt like we're like, oh, we're gonna switch. You have the
Oh,
questions. It
no.
doesn't feel like it was a coincidence.
Mm.
So actually, he wants me to tell this story. My daughter loves musicals,
I
and
do too. Love them.
she just loves them. And, Hamilton came in town, and I live in Southern California, but for not very much longer. But anyway, it came in town last year. And I thought, okay, I'll take her to that. We only could get tickets in the last row. So, we didn't have great tickets, but we still had so much fun. And I'm sitting there watching the musical, and all of a sudden he starts talking to me. And so I have talked to him before, as weird as that
You're
sounds.
talking about Alexander Hamilton, right?
Correct.
Right,
Yes. Yeah.
right.
We talked a good portion of the musical, actually. And he has a lot to offer today about, where the United States also is now. So that might be part of what he wants to talk about.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
All right, let's start out with that. What do
Okay.
you think of the United States today? Are we on the right path?
No, no. Um, Unfortunately, the principles on which this country were founded are not being upheld in the highest regard. There is corruption.
Mm.
corporate greed and interests, what you refer to as corporate greed
Yeah.
and interests that do not benefit the people. This is not the way that I foresaw the future of the nation. And I am here today to speak to you because there is a correction that is needed,
Mm.
a giant correction,
Yeah.
one that may feel painful to you as it felt painful to us.
Yeah.
But know that I speak to you sincerely with the highest regard, for I still consider you my people. We are one and the same, and I am here to help you. But know that you may go through a painful period of readjustment so that the ideals in which this country, no, excuse me, imperfect ideals, because he is talking about, he's showing me specifically slavery, that there's a lot of imperfect, the imperfect ideals upon which this country was founded, though not perfect in our doctrine, remain an important set of guidelines in which this country is founded upon. It is important for you listening to understand that though the road ahead may feel difficult and painful, that the reward will be great, because there will be a restoration of the virtues and principles. These are important founding virtues and principles that we believed in and continue to believe in wholeheartedly. We stand before you today and ask that each of you learn and study this original document. It has been by design that many of you have not had the opportunity or been taught this document.
You're talking about the Constitution?
Yeah, I think that's what he's
Declaration of Independence, or both?
He's talking about the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
It looks like,
Right.
yeah. Yes, a declaration. But he's asking people to actually sit down and read it, because he has an awareness that many people, and he would like people to read the Constitution as well, but he has an awareness that many people in this country do not actually know the Declaration of Independence. And that is important that we start to understand, in fact, what we're about, if that makes sense.
I agree. I bet you never saw, I mean, to me personally, I think that the president and the three branches, the other two branches, are really not running this country. I feel like unelected bureaucrats are running the country, and i.e. the deep state. Did you see, first of all, is that even true? Because it may not be, but did you see
he's not Constitution? He's not using the word deep state so much, but he agrees that I agree with your sentiment that he shows me a horse and another group has taken the reins.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah.
Okay, that's what he shows me. It's like taking the reins. And so, no, we are not being governed in any way, shape, or form by officials you elect.
I know.
Those who you elect should be held to the highest standards and also be held to the highest standards of law. Many officials who are currently elected do not believe that they need to be held accountable. They believe that they are above the law.
Yeah.
It is similar to a king.
Like King George.
Yes. Those who are elected need to become elected through a fair and just system, through an honest process, and must be held to the same standard as their constituents.
Okay. Now, Eric, you can chime in here, but you told me something a long time ago that kind of rattled me because it's about Trump and Trump's personality, just like that to me. Although I could see through some of that. And you said that he was brought in by the divine to topple this unelected bureaucracy and to root out corruption. First of all, is that really what you meant, Eric? And if so, I want Alexander Hamilton to put his 2 cents in because, I don't know if you're talking about him thinking he's above, but both sides, by all these politicians think they're above the law, unfortunately.
Yeah, Eric will speak about Trump. So what Eric's telling me is that he does, in fact, don't shoot the messenger, by the way. I don't want to he does, in fact, serve a spiritual purpose in this country. We will not necessarily understand it or be able to see it until almost like in hindsight.
Yeah.
And also we have to understand that his personality may appear a certain way for a particular reason. Like he may have chosen those personality characteristics in order to sort of shake things up, if that makes sense.
I don't think he's doing himself or anybody else any favors, but okay, I can get on board with that.
But that being said, Eric says he's not perfect, that there is in fact problems and corruption on both sides.
Absolutely.
That this is not to be this isn't like all of a sudden we are without issues.
Right.
It's like we are what I believe Hamilton has been referring to is possibly going to go through a bit of a restructuring process.
Good.
But in doing that, we may go through some difficulty as a nation in order to remember the constitutional principles, and in order to, it's almost like get back to showing me the root of the tree, the roots upon which we're founded.
Based on Judeo-Christian principles. I'm not an organized religion girl, but I do believe in morality. And most of the principles in most religions are those of, morality. So, well, I'll pause in case, but we go on to the next question too, if you want.
No, he's ready for your questions.
Okay. Do you guys wish that you had worded the Second Amendment differently? What is that? Yes. Is that the gun thing?
Yes.
I probably didn't think there was going to be people with magazines and machine guns and awful things like that. So, what's
yes. We did not foresee the widespread use of guns to the degree that they are being utilized in the United States. So it's like at that time it was a very kind of fundamental right that had been withheld, and so it felt like it needed to be included, but it's been distorted and taken out of context, and it is a problem.
Took the life of my son, Alexander. Took the life of my son.
I know. I'm sorry.
They were probably just used for hunting and just protecting property and all that stuff. Not meant to be mowing down school children. What should we do? Oh, you don't believe in no guns, right? Do you believe in what do you believe in?
No, that is not what I'm saying. I do believe that people, if they choose, have the right to protect themselves. And I still do believe in the right to bear arms. However, I do not agree with the sort of like the lax rules around. He's showing me automatic weapons.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's what needs to kind of.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think we still have equal representation?
No.
What would you do to make that happen?
I am not here to suggest that this country and the ideals on which this country were founded were ever achieved. I am not here to suggest that there was ever equal representation. But I can say with certainty that there are many groups in the United States who find themselves at the moment without a voice.
Yeah.
They do not have adequate representation or access to programs or access to equitable school programs or equitable schools for that matter. That this country by and large favors those who are wealthy, and the deck is stacked in their favor. It is important to understand that this is not equal representation. And in order to achieve this, we will need to offer incentives and money to those in underrepresented communities to start businesses, to have access to better schools and education, to be able to have more, it's like to have a wider pool so that they can elect officials that they feel like that represent their interests,
So to me, I feel like in Texas here, we have the Robin Hood thing where the richer areas give to the school districts that are not funded by a wealthy tax base. So I believe in that because educated children are really good for our security and the economic development, etc. And it raises all, as high tide raises all boats. But I also feel like there should not be tenure for these teachers who do not perform. It should be meritocratic. And we should have a voucher system where these poor kids from the inner cities can go to take their voucher and go to a school that's in the more, the wealthier districts that very often have better teachers. Do you agree with that? Everybody needs equal chance, equal. Money should not be.
Yeah, by and large, I agree with many of your assessments. I would have to study the idea of vouchers, as I have not been versed on this concept.
Actually, I haven't either, so don't listen to me. But I just think that people should have a bit. People on the lower socioeconomic rung should have more choice. I mean, all right.
I can speak to the systemic inequality in this country and believe that this country was not founded to be operating in this way.
It's about critical race theory and whatever. It's
no,
because
that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about simply the idea. I mean, he's also wants to admit that the founding fathers were wrong on.
People are throwing the baby out with the bathwater because of slavery.
That's what he was trying to
slaves, and it's really kind of a shame.
But it is important. He's going to kind of challenge you. It is important to acknowledge that we founded in some ways this system of inequality.
Mm.
And to right a wrong, we must first admit a wrong.
Yeah. Hindsight is 2020. That's the problem. Everybody else was doing it, that kind of thing. So I do understand, but it doesn't excuse people throwing all of your work out the window because of the errors that you guys made, because many people made them, and sometimes even worse. Well, maybe not. So what do you think about what's happening at the border, southern border in particular? And what would you have done differently from the present administration? I guess you know that millions are fentanyl and sex trafficking
He
and
does
children are
not.
lost.
We must remember that this country, there's two things. We must remember that this country is a country of immigrants.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And because of this, it is important to welcome immigrants into this country with
Absolutely.
open arms and offer them opportunities to work and to live and to flourish and to learn.
Yeah.
And to treat their children the same as those who have already established themselves in this country.
Absolutely.
That being said, I do not think it is wise to open the border aimlessly and to allow people without any, he's showing me like there's not, it's just sort of this influx. Like that's not what he's talking
So
about.
there's not a meritocratic reason to enter.
Exactly. But he does agree that this country is a country of immigrants.
Yeah, my father was an immigrant. Absolutely.
And so whatever he said about that, but I can't remember, but exactly. But that's important to keep in mind.
Yeah. But it should be done, they should come in legally and edit,
Correct.
but we don't have a very good system for that. So I think that needs to be fixed also. So anyway. All right. What do you think? Okay, that did that. What do you think about socialism? Like Bernie Sanders is the Democratic Socialist, AOC. I mean, what do you think about that?
I can only speak widely about the principles of socialism.
Mhm.
I agree in some of the doctrine of socialism. However, I have noticed that this experiment often fails.
Yeah.
And therefore, I would argue that it is not beneficial, for the masses.
I have a feeling what you believe, and correct me, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is that unfettered capitalism is not a great idea either. We need to have sort of a balance where the people who truly need help, we need to pitch in and help them. But if you can stand up on your own two legs and make a life for yourself, then give it your all. Is that what you're trying to say?
Exactly. He's saying also that we are now witnessing the latter stages of a capitalistic model.
Mm.
And in these latter stages, there is inherent disregard for the human.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is important that we honor the human as honor each man and woman as valuable members of the contributing society.
Right.
And we do not treat any human as like able to be discarded.
Oh yeah, no, of course not. Yeah.
Unfortunately, in late stage capitalism, there are no such checks and balances.
Yeah.
Many people who believe in this type of capitalism operate from a place of greed. They
It's
do
all
not
about money, not
understand.
people. Right. Yeah.
They do not understand that this system also destroys, that it is based on consumption, not community. It
Oh,
is not
yeah.
based on anything that is sustainable in the world and will not ultimately survive in the future iterations of the United States of America.
I agree. I mean, it destroys people, but it also destroys the earth, the rainforest, and all that stuff. So I'm pro capitalism to an extent, but not to me. And don't shoot me, the messenger, but not if it harms others or our planet. There has to be, like, capitalism could be a good thing if you like create new, a company, a capitalistic company, it has an enterprise that helps to save the ozone layer, or that creates medicines that are super cheap to help
It
children.
is beneficial for humans to create goods and services
Yeah, but it has,
for others.
yeah.
However, this will return to, it's almost, he's showing me like the community setting.
Yeah.
And we will be we will be offering goods and services within more of a regional community, as
I like
opposed
that.
to, we buy something and it comes from a different country, for example.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So that feels like what he's
okay.
seeing as the new model.
Yeah, I hope we get there. Capitalism that produces goods and services for good, with the welfare of the collective in mind. All right, how would you strengthen the checks and balances between the executive, judicial, and legislative branches?
I just heard this, like, as right now, there's not really checks and balances in the way that what he's telling me is actually, if we go back to the principles that were that this country was founded upon, that there are actually already checks and balances.
Okay.
But what has happened is, because corporate interests are so involved.
The lobbyists. Yeah.
Yes. And so there's no really way to, and we don't know about a lot of these deals that are happening. I mean, we do know them, but we also, it's not for the people. And so in order to restore the checks and balances, we must understand, and this is, I think, a theme of today, we must understand the principles of our Constitution, we must understand our Bill of Rights, and we must understand democracy.
Yeah.
And he would like people to study and understand, and that will be really important for the future. Because it's like, if we don't know this information, it's going to be hard.
Yeah. We don't even teach most of this stuff in elementary schools anymore. It's kind of a shame. And we don't say the Pledge of Allegiance in most schools now. What do you think about that? It's almost shameful to be patriotic now. And there's been a huge decline in patriotism.
I see the decline in patriotism as symptomatic of a larger problem. If you do not feel represented by those in power, if you feel that you have no voice in the democracy,
that's it,
then you may not want to participate in such activities as the Pledge of Allegiance. I am not saying this is right or wrong, but simply suggesting that it is important that patriotism come from feeling heard and understood, and like you have a say in the order of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That explains it all. All right, now don't get mad at me for this because I have no party affiliations, but what do you think? Oh, well, first of all, what do you think about packing the Supreme Court? That's what Democrats want to do.
I do not think.
But then
I believe that the Supreme Court.
back.
Mhm. I believe that the Supreme Court, in the Supreme Court, it is necessary to have diverse opinions
Yeah,
on both sides.
yeah,
I do not think that packing the Supreme Court in favor of any political viewpoint
right.
offers solutions.
Yeah. Okay.
Solutions.
All right. I'm gonna have a hard time asking this. What do you think of the absolute disgrace the Democrat Party has become?
I would suggest that there's disgrace on both sides.
Of course.
I would suggest that the ultimate disgrace is that the people whom run this great land, who serve others, who work hard for their families, are not feeling seen, heard, or understood.
Yeah.
They are no longer represented, and that is the greatest disgrace. I ask you listening to look at each other with new eyes, because I say this and I will say it again. You will need to overlook political parties in order to unite as one to restore this great land. It will be important in the coming years that you see others in this country as brothers and sisters uniting for the common good.
Yeah.
I urge you to learn the principles on which this country was founded, for it will be important again. I urge you to look past these differences and see each other, see the common man, and see yourselves in each other. For that is what we are urging you to do today. To look past this division that has been created.
So awful.
And see yourselves, for this will be needed to create the communities that I speak of.
Yeah.
For this will be needed in order to create a government that is just and free from the level of corruption that we witness today.
All right, let me ask a couple of questions for this part one, and then we'll go to part two. Okay, so I'm very worried about Biden. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but he clearly, and I saw this, and I told my husband 2 years ago, this guy has Parkinson's, bradykinesia, moving slowly, no arm swing to speak of, shuffling gait. And it almost seems like he's not really running the country, that staffers and other people are running it. So what do you think about that? To me, I feel compassion for the guy, because I think that people around him were committing elder abuse. But maybe not. I don't know. I don't know the whole story.
I do not wish to create more division among your viewers by aligning with a political party. I will say that he does not appear well.
I know, I'm worried about him. I'm a doctor. I'm concerned about the health of others.
But it is important to hear the larger message, for there is high levels of corruption on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
It is important to hear the message that you are going to be responsible for creating this great nation again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here's the last question for part 1. Be honest. Was the institution made for the benefit of the people or for those that rule the country? Oh my gosh.
I would encourage you to understand where I came from.
Right.
This country was founded on ideals and principles for the people.
Yeah. I agree. All right. Thank you, Courtney. Her
Thank
information
you.
down below. It's going to be on the screen. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Alexander. Alex to me. No, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. You guys hit the notification bell and the subscribe button so you don't miss it.